Okay, welcome to Weather with Jeff for May 25th, 2021. We are headed into Memorial Day weekend, which is hard to believe already, and some hot temperatures right now. But Jeff, I think you've got some news for us by the weekend, it looks like. So looking
We
forward to your report this week.
we do, and hopefully it's find it a little bit more positive than where we've been. I do want to start though. It's I think important to note here, as everyone appreciates. Certainly, if you're anywhere from the southern half of the state, you definitely appreciate this. But the dryness has intensified over recent weeks. And last week, the U.S. Drought Monitor, and this is the latest report you see here in front of you, upgraded many areas of Michigan significantly. And for the first time in a while, we've got some category D2 or severe drought conditions here across portions of southwestern lower Michigan, again, reflecting the some cases several months of drier than normal weather here. But given the more recent warm temperatures and higher potential evapotranspiration rates, the impacts of the dryness have been much more pronounced here in recent times. So obviously things have gone the wrong direction, but in the short term here, there is some reason for optimism, and I'll talk about more about that in a second. It was, as you remember last week, we talked about the building of the big ridge over the Great Lakes, and look at our temperature departures on the left for the last week. It's been a roller coaster. Remember, in early May, we were dealing with 10-degree negative departures for the first couple of weeks. Well, this past week, we were 10 degrees above on the positive side. And you can see Michigan here right in the middle of that, but all the Midwest was warmer than normal. So no big surprises there, but unusually warm conditions for late May. Just or even more importantly, if we look at the precipitation, we would note that, and like we talked about last week, the vast majority of all of that Gulf of Mexico moisture streaming northward into the Midwest fell to our west. And you can see that here clearly over Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, and even including portions of upper Michigan, which were in that stream. But for most of lower Michigan, you can see just out of reach. But we did have some convection pop up on Sunday across Michigan, and that you can see this area here, west central and central lower, southeastward down into the northern suburbs of Detroit. They did pick up some significant rain, some cases more than half an inch. Actually, a couple areas near Reed City picked up more than 2 inches, but that was definitely the exception rather than the rule. And you see many other portions, notably southwestern lower Michigan, which arguably may be about the driest area of the state right now. You can see little or no precip. The thumb was another area that was missed, as was much of northern lower Michigan. So it depended on location, but in general here, the problems with dryness continue to the present time. One little, we'll call it a little bit of weather weirdness here to share with you today. For many of you on Sunday, depending on where in the state you were, you noticed during the day a very, very pronounced cooling. And this from the warmer temperatures, which we had most of the week, and then all of a sudden the wind shifted around to the northeast and it turned cool. This was especially true across the north and east parts of the state. And what it was what meteorologists referred to as a backdoor cold front. And just a little bit, we know that in the mid latitudes, and I think everyone appreciates that our weather systems, generally because of where we are in the world in the northern hemisphere, most of our weather systems move from west to east, and that includes both the low pressure systems that bring us precipitation, and then the high pressure systems that have either the cool or warm, depending on the source of that air mass. Well, a backdoor cold front is a front that actually moves a little bit against the flow. And on Sunday, we had a very, very cool Canadian origin air mass located to the north of the Great Lakes, and it drove a front down really from the northeast to southwest across most of Michigan. And actually, that frontal boundary, it moved on Sunday and into Sunday evening. It stalled out right along the Indiana and Ohio border. And then yesterday, it returned north as a warm front. We're going to be back in that really subtropical, very, very summer-like air mass here for at least another day. But that was the dividing line. And again, on Sunday, it was actually moving southward as a cold front. And as it did so, the wind shifted around from the west to the northeast. And you can see up at the top here, these are 5-minute data taken. This is from our EnviroWeather automated weather station at Ithaca. And there are some similar places. But look at what happened here. That front passed through there just before 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, and the temperature dropped 20 degrees, literally in 2 hours. You can almost see it in free fall here. And it actually was almost 31 degrees decrease in temperature in just a 4-hour period. And if you want to think that's top end for in some mountainous areas and in the high plains here in North America, this happens, but not so much in Michigan. This is top end for, especially for this time of the year, for the late spring, almost early summer here. It's unusual to see a temperature change that much. And well, again, I wanted to share that because it was very unusual. The other thing I noted, the wind, this is the wind direction is up here with the arrows, and you can see westerly winds, west-northwest, and then they shift around to northeast as the front goes through. This is the wind velocity, the dark blue here, and you can see the winds basically from less than a few miles per hour here before the frontal passage, and then all of a sudden they peaked up to 20 miles per hour out of the north and east. And people describe this, again, Saginaw Valley in particular, as a rushing wall of cold air that came across the area. Very, very, very unusual. Some cases it was accompanied by showers, and in this case it was that came here a little bit later in the day. But again, just as a little bit of weather and climate here to show to you. This, we know historically, this doesn't happen very often to see a temperature change either up or down. But this would maybe be once every 15 to 20 years. So something pretty unusual. And it occurred in some of these instances in the middle of a drought. I don't know if that's connected, but it was very, very spectacular, depending on where you were in the state. Well, back to where we are with a very, very warm week. Our degree day totals took a huge leap, the biggest jump of the year thus far. Many cases, more than 100 base 50 units were recorded for the week. And I think the big news is that we have jumped from pretty close to the normal, or even a couple days behind normal last week. Remember, that was following the cool weather. Now we're back in the surplus category again, especially over the lower peninsula. But with very, very warm weather, all the degree days, there was a burst literally of phenological development, both for vegetation, of course, if water was available, and also for insects, just as importantly, with all that warmth. And a lot of that warmth was at night. Some of our nighttime temperatures only got down to the mid and upper 60s, so at least 15 degrees above normal at night. So big jump in degree day totals. Soil moisture, a little bit of help here. This is as of midnight last night. We did get some help in the central lower where some of that rainfall you saw earlier, but in general here, we still have this very, very dry area, especially concentrated across the southern half, and especially southwestern lower Michigan. On the right-hand side, I've used another panel here. This is the relative change in plant available water here in 1 month. And you can see where the major changes have been. And again, not surprisingly, almost all of southern lower Michigan is in that. This dark orange brown color indicates that things have gotten worse. In this case, about 10% we've lost in general of the top 3 feet of a plant available water in the top 3 feet. You can also see that the area that we're in is connected to a larger area, and it's actually growing from Michigan and actually parts of southern Wisconsin eastward into southern Ontario in portions of the lower lakes. But there's also an area out here in portions of the mid-Atlantic that's getting drier as well. That is also probably or perhaps connected to what we're seeing here in the Great Lakes region. So again, in general, things have deteriorated, although there were a few spots that did better. Well, where we're going here, I mentioned some hope for precip, and we've got 2 weather systems that have some promise of providing some water. The first one is not too far away. It's an area of low pressure up over southern Canada that will consolidate. The other important thing is it's strengthening. The upper air, the dynamics with it are such that it's providing some additional energy here. Here's that warm front that I mentioned. That was the backdoor cold front on Sunday. Now, yesterday it returned. as a warm front. You can see that all the way pushing into Ontario. And then behind that here, this cold front in blue with triangles here, this cold front will make its way into the state by probably early tomorrow morning and then clear the state by the middle of the day. That's going to be the primary mechanism here to give us our next good chance of a precip, and it will be ahead of the cold front. We should see showers and thunderstorms develop here as early as this evening in northwestern portions of the state, although we still do have some scattered shower activity, just like we have for the last several days up in the upper peninsula, but that's going to gradually push east and south and then enter, again, lower Michigan by late this evening. Most areas will see the best chances for precip here, probably the early morning hours into tomorrow AM, which is the most stable time of the day. So what we're likely to see instead of showers and thunderstorms, I think, is more of a steady rain type. But that's, given the situation, that's great. It's more of it infiltrates than runs off and can be wasted here. Here's the map as of tonight at 8 p.m. You can see the front gets a little bit closer, and then all the green here, scattered showers and thunderstorms developing, but most of it here will be just ahead of the frontal system as it makes its way through. Here's 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. You can see it's into northwestern lower, and that's when, for the southeastern portion of the state, that's going to be the greatest, the highest likelihood of rainfall there. And then finally, by 8 a.m. on Thursday, it's cleared off to the east. So most of the precipitation should come to an end in Michigan in the southeast corner probably by the early afternoon, but we could see most cases probably a quarter of an inch. Maybe in some places will be better than that here for moisture. And again, it's not huge, but everything matters. And given where we are, I think it will be welcome in many areas. Now, a couple things. One is that behind up to the north here, another big Canadian origin high pressure system. This is a cool, relatively dry air mass that's going to come in behind this front. And one of the other big themes here is that we're looking at a major cool down in temperatures, and today, Tuesday, will be the warmest day of the entire week. We probably will be in the 80s in most locations, a little cooler near the lakes, especially on the western side of the state, but we may push 90 in the far south, so we'll call it hot. The other issue is, with lots of pressure gradient, lots of differences between high and low pressure, the winds are really going to pick up. You're going to notice that here, especially this afternoon into the evening, out of the southwest, 15 to 25 miles per hour in most areas, probably some gusts up around 35 or 40. So we'll call it hot, dry, and windy here as that cold front approaches. Now, following this cool air mass, we could see actually the potential for some, and I'm going to call it isolated, scattered frost possibilities by Thursday morning in interior northern areas of the state. I think it's going to be limited. We're not looking at what we saw here earlier in May or in April with repeated, there is a repeat, but the temperatures just aren't cold enough with this air mass. But I think we could see some low-lying areas, maybe a little bit of frost, but it will not be widespread. That starts that threat on Thursday and continues Friday and into Saturday, probably will be the last day. But I think, again, probably confined only to interior northern areas of the state. We probably will reach the low 30s, or the upper 30s for low temperatures in other areas of the state, central and south as the week goes on. But a very, very distinctive and noticeable cooling trend in progress. That brings up weather system number 2. Which you can see on the map here by Thursday morning, another area of low pressure, but instead of moving north of us like the system number 1 will be doing here over the next 24 hours, this one's going to pass to the south of Michigan. It's going to be much more like a cool season type of precip event, and this one likely will only impact, I'm going to say maybe the southern half of the state or so. That's also a change from a lot of the weather patterns we've seen, or a lot of the systems that we've seen over the last several weeks. So look for the development, and this is going to be a steady light rain, maybe a little bit of moderate there at times, starting overnight late on Thursday and continuing into Friday through the AM, probably through the middle of the day before it comes to an end. And this one, thinking quarter to half inch totals right now, most of the guidance has been pretty consistent on that. And it will be great for the dry areas because it should be a very steady intensity. Again, most all of it should be able to infiltrate and not waste it. You can see that here approaching. This is Thursday morning. The best chances, though, for most people in certainly in lower Michigan, will be probably early evening, overnight, and then into early Friday morning for that system. That then moves off to the east. Here's one more weather map. This is as of Friday morning. This is a different format, but similar guidance. You can see the green, all the precipitation here. Generally, the southern 2/3 of the lower peninsula is where we're looking at the best chances. Heaviest totals will be across the southern portion of the state. Again, big change from where we've been, but I'm hoping, I'm pretty optimistic about a 1/4 to 1/2 inch of very, very much needed moisture. In terms of the total for the week, this has also changed. Note that the heaviest totals are in the south, actually in the southwest, where it's driest. That's great. And we can see 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, fairly widespread across the south. That would be the most precip we've had there in several weeks. In contrast, much less in the northern part of the state. But again, they've done better in recent weeks. So that's the forecast total from those two events. After Friday, we should see dry weather for the upcoming weekend and cool, unseasonably cool for the week. No precip probably until at least maybe the middle part of next week, or at least Tuesday. But right now, the Memorial Day weekend is start off pretty cool on Saturday, but then moderating temperatures will be back up to above 70 for high temperatures by Sunday and Monday of next week. I mentioned the cool weather and what a change this will be, especially relative to where we've been. High temperatures only in the 40s and 50s on Friday. That's not easy to do, getting to late May climatologically in Michigan, but that's how cool the air mass is. And again, that's going to be accompanied by some of the clouds and that weather system, the system number 2. PET rates or potential evapotranspiration here for the upcoming week with the cooler temperatures will be certainly less than what it was last week. And you can see the daily rates, average rates from maybe 12 or 13 hundredths in the north to about 16 or 17 hundredths per day in the south. So still up there, but not as high as what we saw last week with the very, very warm temperatures. Moving into the medium range, you're going to see a little bit of everything. This is for the 6 to 10 day time frame, which takes us into the first few days of June. You can see no direction here for mean temperature. And for precipitation, it actually calls it a little drier than normal. And as I added the 8 to 14 day outlook here as well for the first week of June, you can see that it flip-flops back up to warmer than normal mean temperatures for that first week, and then maybe normal to above normal precipitation. I would take this personally with a little bit of a grain of salt, because right now I think the medium range models are having some trouble coming up with a consistent solution or consistent direction on where we are. So I would not put a lot of confidence or hopes in any of these outlooks at this point in time. Right now, my personal guess is that next week still ends up maybe normal to a little bit cooler than normal. We do have a couple more chances for precipitation coming. That's a good thing. But then with some moderation. And so maybe by that first week of June, we start to see some moderation in temperatures, at least back to normal or even above normal temperature again. That's generally what the models suggest. So but low confidence at this point in time. We do have a new long lead outlook. Wanted to share also. This was issued by the Climate Prediction Center last Thursday. And for the month of June, which is on top here, still calling for warmer than normal mean temperatures, precipitation normal to maybe a little bit above normal for the month of June. So it's pretty consistent, pretty similar to the recent issuance of, or a couple issuances of the long leads. And then our June through August, our 3-month outlook, still normal to above normal mean temperatures, and maybe again equal probabilities of all, maybe a little bit elevated for increased or wetter than normal, but pretty similar to what the outlooks have been in the past. So there's some consistency there. The La Nina that had driven a lot of our outlooks and ironically did not have much to do with our weather over the winter, late winter and spring. That's gone. We're officially neutral now in the Pacific, but there are hints that La Nina may return this fall. But right now, the Pacific has probably very little to do, or conditions in this ocean in the equatorial Pacific, very, very little to do with our outlook. It's more driven by mid-latitude or that type of phenomena than it is by tropical. So I'll wrap up there. Again, today, warm, windy, or call it hot and windy, and then with a significant cooling trend, but we've got 2 major chances for precip, hopefully. And so you've been in one of those areas that's been missed, you'll be hit this time. And again, we're looking for at least a half an inch. Cross fingers that works out. Much cooler by the end of the week, with some possibly even some scattered or isolated frost in a few spots. But in general, a nice weekend for the holiday coming up next week. So I'll stop there and see if there might be any questions.
Thanks, Jeff. So Jeff, I got a little bit distracted on one of those maps that you were showing. I grew up in North Dakota, and did I see snow?
Yes, you probably did. Yeah, that one
Yeah,
probably.
that one there.
And that's close to home there for you, Kevin. That is, again, it's a reflection of how cool that air mass is. And that's actually, you can see some of it. It hasn't been talked about specifically in Upper Michigan, but you can see that there is mixed. That purple color is a mixed, but it is. That's how cold it is. Temperatures just above the surface are at or just a little bit below freezing. And again, by late May, we don't see that too often, but we also, the soils have warmed up now too. It's harder to get frost and freezing temperatures at the surface, but if we clear off and calm down, it's possible that in some of those low-lying areas we might see frost. But for folks, and it's ironic too, the northern plains are under severe drought conditions right now and major problems. So I suspect that people might even say, if it's frozen or it's liquid, I don't care. I just want the moisture. But they actually, it would be ironic if some of that moisture were in the frozen form. But yes, it's
nothing like starting off Memorial Day weekend with a little bit of snow on the ground.
a little bit of a shock for people, even in the northern plains.
Yeah, but I think overall, I mean, the trend you're talking about at least sounds like we have a better chance of some consistent precip across the lower peninsula this coming next 3 or 4 days, because we need that. I mean,
and I would even say beyond that. Again, I'm not very confident in some of that medium range, which was all over the map, but it does look like there'll be a fairly active storm track through the upper Midwest, and at least more frequent chances. We've been missed by many of those systems that go by for a number of reasons, but it's just statistically, it's just like playing the roulette wheel, the same number all the time. Sooner or later, it's got to even out, and I'm hoping maybe we're starting to see some of that.
Yeah, and I think I was talking to a landscaper this morning, and just not only the turf stress that they've been seeing in their lawns that they manage, but even just like the ornamental plantings and everything. People just they're not used to this time of year, this level of dryness.
Absolutely. I will, I'm working on some numbers now, and I hope to have in the next week some historical perspective about this. It's been a long time. Some of the products, the estimated soil moisture product that I showed you, that one's about 20 years old. And in that series, this is the driest at this time of the year that we've seen. Again, it isn't, it's unusual as most people realize it. If we see drought, it's typically the middle or latter part of the summer, or maybe into the fall, but not at the beginning. We usually start off with a lot of moisture in the soil from the preceding fall and winter, and it just this year we just did not. You have to go in general for analog years. You've got to go back to the 80s to see similar conditions. It's been quite a long time, but I'll try to get some more specific about that. It's been a while since we've had a D2 status drought in Michigan, or at least over a larger area. It's for this time of the year. That's what I have to search. It's been a long time since we've seen that.
All right, thanks, Jeff. We appreciate it. Hope everybody has a great Memorial Day weekend, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.